Hey, good afternoon to you. 506 Now News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630 WMAL. Yes, lefties everywhere this weekend, not celebrating Easter, instead committing all their time to the Trans Day of Visibility. Among them, many of the cabinet officials in the Biden administration. Here's Education Secretary Miguel Cardona going big on Trans Day.
To the many transgender students across the country listening on this Trans Day of Visibility, we in the Biden-Harris administration want you to know that we see you, we support you, and we celebrate you. We also know it's not an easy time to be you. Walking into a classroom should be an act of hope, not an act of bravery. That every day you choose to show up as your true self, you make this world a more brave, more honest, and more free place.
Wow. I mean, how Orwellian does it get? Miguel Cardona advocating for the destruction of so many Americans and calling it kindness. Meanwhile, Easter actually going on and very little attention to it being paid by the left and certainly the Biden administration. For more on this, why is this happening? I wanted the big picture view, and the big picture guy is my next guest, Mike Gonzales. He's a senior fellow for national security and foreign policy at the Heritage Foundation. He's got a brand new book coming out, very timely, tomorrow, called Gen Marxism, What It Is and How to Combat It. He co-wrote it with the excellent Catherine Gorka. Mike, great to talk to you today, sir.
Vince, thank you. Thanks a lot for having me on. I listen to you on my commute home every day, and you keep me in stitches. It's a joy to be on with you.
Oh my goodness! Well, Mike, it's always good to talk to you, and I'm sincere when I say that I woke up this morning and I thought, how can I talk about this sometime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon in a way that advances it a little bit more? And one way is, I think, to just take the 30,000 foot approach. How is it that the left got us to the point that we now have on our calendars, according to the White House, a Trans Day of Visibility every year? What is this, and what are they marching us towards?
Well, first of all, let's just recognize, although you have done so already with some of your previous guests, that this is a provocation to all Christians, to the almost 4 billion of us in humanity that are Christian. It's incredibly short-sighted for the White House and the campaign to have done this, and a sign of how much they have fallen hostage to a woke mindset that is impossible to satiate, that will never be satiated, and will demand more and more depravity every day. But you're right, because what we see here is bigger than that. It's one more sign that the Biden team is intent on replacing everything we hold holy, our norms, our traditions, with a rival and adversarial set of beliefs. This is the counter-hegemonic narrative in action, Vince. This is why Catherine Cornell Gorka and I wrote this book, to explain why America is more and more becoming an unrecognizable country.
Okay, help me explore that. Did you say the anti-hegemonic concept? Is that what you said? What does that mean?
The anti-hegemonic narrative. So what they hold is that they have to dismantle the American conceptual framework, that they have to dismantle which to them, as you know, is white supremacy, is heteronormativity, is things that need to be replaced, because cultural Marxists set out in the middle of the last century to say, why are workers not rising every day? Why are they not constantly overthrowing the state as Marx called for? And their answer was, well, the workers have bought into the set of beliefs of the rich and powerful, which were created to keep the rich and powerful in place. The workers actually do not want to abolish the family. They do not want to abolish God. They do not want to abolish private property, and they do not want to abolish the nation state. And if you're a Marxist, this is a big problem. So what they do is they say, well, we're going to infiltrate the culture. We're going to indoctrinate people into believing that these are bad things, and that we need to replace them with a counter narrative. And this is the counter narrative. You know, we're taking something beautiful that we celebrate on this day, on Easter Sunday, all of us Christians, which is that Jesus Christ died for our sins so there can be redemption. We all have hope. And we replace this with a day that celebrates the mutilation of the human body. Is there anything more grotesque than replacing the day we celebrate redemption with the day we celebrate the mutilation of the human body? And if this is not more stark, then I don't know what is. So this is why Katie and I set out to explain this. And why do we call it next Gen Marxism? Because all these things that I have explained to you just now and to your audience about the culture needed to be changed, those were the cultural Marxists that came along in the 20s and 30s of the last century. So to that here in the United States, so these ideas flourished in America in the 60s, and these students began to take over the academy, the faculties, and then to this they added very American pathogens, such as community organizing, that's perfected by Saul Alinsky, such as the use of gender theory and queer theory, which we're discussing right now with Transgender Day of Visibility, such as the use of race for everything, yes. Such as Marxist networks that span the globe and social media. That is what makes a cultural Marxist and next-gen Marxist, according to Katie and me.
It's what's interesting. A feature of all of this is the chaos. It's all incoherent. There's no actual limiting principles. There's no rules for how it operates. I mean, I started the show talking about this Trans Day of Visibility. A decade ago, I was told that the whole concept behind someone saying that the man saying that they're a woman is that, well, they should pass. They should pass as a woman. In other words, go undetected in society. They should be treated as a woman. They should be visibly look like a woman. But now instead, it's now the rule is, no, you're supposed to not only see them, you have to recognize them and worship them and celebrate them. Mike, it's completely incoherent. And that feels like a pretty routine quality of this type of cultural Marxism.
No. It's very coherent. It is Stalinism. That is a totalitarian demand. Not that you tolerate. You and I believe in toleration. We tolerate adults doing this to each other. What we refuse to do is to affirm it, to being compelled to affirm it. And that is a totalitarian step. To say, no. We're not asking for toleration here, folks. We're asking for affirmation. And you must do it or your life is canceled. You're canceled from your job, you're canceled from society, etc. And that is the totalitarian step. That is the totalitarian step. So we explained this all in our book, why it came into being, what is the purpose of it. Yeah. It's never, David Horowitz was right about this, the issue is never the issue is the revolution. We're seeing more and more demonstrators at Gaza, anti-Israeli marches, saying, no, what we want to do is dismantle the United States. Yes, Gaza is now the goal, is dismantling the United States. The same thing for queer theory. They want to queer society, which is to change the norms, to dismantle the United States. The same thing with the racial issue. The same thing with climate. We just saw the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, whom I used to know. She used to be an FT reporter. She just said that. She just said, well, we need to, capitalism and democracy will not allow us to have the policies that we need to have to confront climate change. All of this is about changing the things you and I hold dear, Vince.
Yeah. But what do they think is going to happen? I mean, this is one of those things that's like, real Marxism hasn't been tried yet, some version of that. What do they think is going to happen in the end? So the idea is, you point out, I mean, the phrase hegemon, it usually refers to the country that leads the world, and that has been, since World War I, that's been the United States of America. And prior to that, you've had any number of countries that occupied that position. Great Britain for a long time. You've had Portugal, Spain. Throughout history, various countries have just dominated the world. And so what do they think is going to happen? So if they destroy American hegemony and our leadership position in the world, is their belief that there will be no leader, that the world is just going to be free-flowing, and that there's going to be no governance at all? What have they convinced themselves of? Because in every element of the natural world, and certainly in the human one, there is always going to be a hierarchy. There is going to be somebody calling the shots, and you would much rather have the United States than almost anybody else. So what do they think happens next?
So two answers. One is they do actually want to replace the American hegemon. They hate the United States. We are the country most devoted to freedom, and are still that way. But what, by hegemonic narrative, they don't mean the American hegemon. They mean the prevailing concepts in society. And what do they want to do? They are still, here's where they haven't changed. They are still Marxist in the sense that what they want to introduce is collectivism, is central planning, yes. Is taking away the ability of individuals to make decisions for themselves and their families. They want the end goal will still be gulags and deprivation and economic insanity. Marxists, as you have said, everywhere that has been tried, has never produced bread. They've only produced bread lines, because once you take away the price discovery mechanism of the market, everything falls apart. So the end goal is still the same. Now, they will not say that, Vince. What they will say is, and here's a phrase that when your listeners hear it, be triggered. They will say, another word is possible. Another word is possible. And they say this all the time. Another word is possible, meaning we capitalism, the market system doesn't work. You know, representative democracy is a ruse. It's just money. What we need is people's democracy. We need councils, you know, organized neighborhoods. What they mean is for somebody to come along and become the party, to play the role of the party, whether they call it the Communist Party or not. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They want collectivism. I mean, you can find the word collective used all the time. They want collective rights. So that is really what is at stake here.
Well, that particular line of thinking is intoxicating to young idealistic people because they become convinced that utopia is possible in a human system.
Yes.
That you can, there's perfection is achievable, and that's not true. That is not true. No human system is perfect. We are flawed, no question about it. But free market capitalism is the closest thing in terms of achieving human flourishing and out of any system that's ever been devised. And all of the other ones that are defined by collectivism lead to tremendous amounts of suffering and death.
Right, and you and I agree on the fact that humans are flawed, that there's no perfection on earth. And where do we get that? We get that from Christianity. And what do they want to abolish? Christianity. You know, so you and I, you put your finger right on it. It's a utopianism. They want a utopia. They think they can achieve perfectibility. They think nature is malleable. You and I read the ancient Greek. We read, Socrates and Aristotle. We read the Bible, and we see that men, the men and women, Sarah, Abraham, Agamemnon, they're just like you and me. They have the same flaws. The same man has not changed in 5,000 years. They believe they can change man. They believe they can change human nature. Antonio Gramsci, the main philosopher in all this, said that was the best thing about Marx, that Marx had come up with the idea that human nature was changeable. So this is a big, and they also don't believe that objective truth matters. The objective truth actually even exists. They believe that humans cannot be trusted to use their senses to interpret reality. You and I do believe that objective truth exists, and that man is flawed.
And they've launched an all-out assault, actually, on objective truth. They consider it, a part of the enemy faction, because their view is that objective truth is actually just a system for perpetuating oppression. This is the whole concept. I mean, like Orwell himself, wrote this idea that they would try and convince us that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. He was just making a very basic assessment of how tyranny operates in these collectivist systems, and I can't even believe I'm alive to see it coming to fruition. It's like the craziest thing, Mike Gonzales.
Well, trust, I want to say to you, and now you have a very sophisticated audience, trust that what you're seeing is happening right under our noses. When they say, no, 2 sexes, it's not 2 sexes. It's fluid. We know as a fact that we've known it for millennia, and we've known it all our lives, that there are 2 sexes. There are people, an infinitesimally small percentage of humanity that fall in between, but that is an abnormality. The normal is 2 sexes. So, they say no. That's not true. And by the way, they have the goal to call themselves the party of science, where and they want us to live in suspended disbelief.
Yes, and if they can attack your most fundamental understandings, they can attack literally all of your understandings. Lastly, how important are children and to this conversation? Obviously, the left and these Marxists that you talk about, they really want to form the minds of young people. But have you noticed that one of the things they seem to desire very greatly is that you don't have kids at all? And to me, part of that seems like the explanation for that is, I know in my life, and I wonder if you feel the same, having a child definitely put me more in touch with thinking about virtue and how to raise a child and like what's best for her and what kind of environment I need to create for her and my loyalty to her. Is encouraging people not to have children an effort to stop that kind of thinking?
Yes, because they know that having children grounds you. From that moment that first child is born, if you're a normal human being, it's no longer about you. It's about that other third human being that your spouse and you are going to work all your life to give them all the opportunities in life, everything you can. Yeah. And that they don't want. And they do believe that the child belongs to the state. Alexandra Kollontai, the education minister in the Soviet Union, the first one, believed that. She said that from the beginning. They don't belong to the family; they belong to us. And all Marxists have agreed on this. We need to get them early. We need to indoctrinate them early. Have them snitch on their parents. You see already this happening in America today. And the last thing I want to say is, because people are going to say, well, these people are not Marxists. Actually, a small percentage are, but it's the prevailing idea. So what I say is, somebody who believes in cutting taxes or growing government, right, to help the economy grow is a Keynesian, whether he has ever read John Maynard Keynes or not. The Sure. Same thing with these new Marxists.
Yeah, they're intoxicated by the underlying theories, whether or not they're appending the label to themselves.
Yes, that's right.
It's definitely true. Mike Gonzales, I'm so grateful, as always, for our conversations. Congratulations on the new book alongside Catherine Cornell Gorka. The book is Next Gen Marxism, What It Is and How to Combat It. It comes out tomorrow. Make sure to pick it up right away. Mike Gonzales, thank you so much, sir.
And by the way, say hello to oyster bunnies. Come on.
By the way, say hello to oyster bunnies. That was Joe Biden today. There are now multiple oyster bunnies at the White House. We'll tell you all about that Easter egg roll, or is it an oyster egg roll? We'll get to the bottom of it. Share the details ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 now. This is WMAL, of course, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Let's see here. Let me take a phone call. I've got Mike calling in from Sunshine now. He's on line 2. Mike, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Vince, thanks for taking my call. I told your call screener that we're living in a world where feelings have primacy. They do not have primacy. Nothing is true simply because you feel it is true. Mm-hmm. And that's the trans ideology in a nutshell. I identify as a dragon. I feel that I am a dragon. Whenever I listen to them, they're always talking about their feelings. Nothing is true simply because you feel it is true.
Yes. And feelings alone. I'll make a caveat. Feelings alone are not indicators. Although your intuition is worth paying attention to. So if you feel something is out of place, something's probably out of place. If you feel you are being misled, chances are somebody's trying to deceive you. But what a responsible person does is then explore that. That feeling is merely a starting point for you to explore, well, what the hell's really going on? And the left has said, you know what? Actually, you're not allowed to undertake that exploration. You're only allowed to conclude that your initial feeling has this bizarro answer, and you have to go with it or else.
That's correct. It's an epistemological problem where you know something because you feel it. And yes. That is, and when I say the word simply because you feel, and I think we agree that intuition and gut feel are important, but not the only thing.
Yeah, and that's why, we had the guy call in earlier and talking about people who, think that they were born in the wrong body and that sort of thing. In other words, there is some sort of underlying problem worth addressing. You don't just ignore that person and you're like, hell with you. No, how did you arrive at this conclusion? Let's walk it back. If you love them, that's what you would do. If you don't, you abandon them and enable their destruction. So that's kind of how these things work. Mike, thank you. No, it's totally right. Who was it? Ben Shapiro said all those years ago, facts don't care about your feelings. He was really tapping into a very fundamental assessment of, hey, look, like reality is not simply what you emote. It's not just that. There are actual answers, including absolute truths. Like things actually exist, and other things don't, for that matter. All right, let's see here. I do want to talk to you a little bit about Joe Biden's advanced age and senility today. He was really something today at the what he's referring to apparently as the oyster egg roll or something. He doesn't even know how to say it. Joe Biden was asked by Al Roker of television news fame. Right, I think he's a weatherman actually, but he plays a news guy sometimes. he was asked by Al Roker, why is the Easter egg roll so special? And the Easter egg roll, I should point out, was delayed today. There was thunder. I believe they were delayed by something like an hour and a half, 90 minutes. May have been a message from God, not clear. It was delayed for a little bit today. Finally got underway, and Joe Biden was asked by Al Roker, hey, what's going on here? What is this all about? Listen to Biden's really, truly incoherent answer.
What is so special about this egg roll?
Well, what's so special is this is the people's house. And we expect for over 40,000 people to be here. It's the largest ever. And we just like to open it up the place and let people see this is their place.
Quick, repeat back what he said, if you could. What does the closed captioning look like on television screens when he's doing this? Honestly, I would love to see video of that if anybody has access to it. What does the closed captioning say? I can't follow a word of it. He said something, 40,000 people's house. What?
This is the people's house. And we expect for over 40,000 people to be here. It's the largest ever. And we just like to open it up the place and let people see this is their place.
And Jill Biden, Dr. Jill was standing next to him, cringing during all of this, hoping that he would survive the sentence so they could get to the next thing. She was busy today. It looks like Jill has decided to take a more active role in directing Joe in terms of where he goes. In past years, they've had the Easter Bunny, who is typically some White House staffer dressed up as the Easter Bunny, walking around, telling Joe where to go, right? Gesturing, pointing, go that way, don't go that way, this way, Mr. President. And he would dutifully follow the orders of the Easter Bunny. Jill has decided to make that her job this year. I saw when they actually walked out onto the South Lawn today to greet the people who were arriving at the White House to participate in the annual Easter egg roll, she had to drag him in the direction he needed to go. He started gesturing forward like, oh, am I going over here? She literally just pulled him. She grabbed him by the crook of his arm and just started dragging him into his placement for the day's festivities. And she had to do that all day today. So Jill staying very close to Joe Biden today, trying to guide him around the lawn as he went out for a brief period of time to visit with everybody who was there. So he was incapable of explaining to Al Roker why people were there. Nobody could quite make out what he was saying. Biden also told Al Roker that people are very tired in the United States of all of the negativity. Now, who's responsible for all of this negativity? Can we catch them? Can we sit down with them and get them to be more positive? Who is that person?
What's your message to people about why they've got to engage and get out there to vote?
Well, I think people are going to surprise people again.
Wait, what is that question, by the way? That's literally just a softball designed to enable Democrat Party talking points should Joe Biden have the wit to deliver them. What is... Like, Al doesn't even know what he wants to ask. All he knows is he starts the question and he's like, just tell us why Democrats are great.
What's your message to people about why they've got to engage and get out there to vote?
Well, I think people are going to surprise people again. They're going to engage.
I think people are going to surprise people again.
An overwhelming response when we're out on the road. Look,
what?
We have
an overwhelming response. Go down.
And they're going to engage. An overwhelming response when we're out on the road. Look,
I think he meant to say when we're out on the road. Now, I'm doing him some favors here.
Have tens of thousands of people contributing $5-10 a pop. We've opened up 100 headquarters. We have people waiting to just get engaged.
The Trump campaign told us, what was it, last week? We talked to Caroline Leavitt, and I believe the number she said when we were on the air, I think it was $4. Corey, refresh my memory. Didn't she say $4 was the average donation? It's $4? Yeah. Corey thinks it was. Around $4 is the average donation. So in terms of just grassroots donations from people who are just open up their wallets and giving a little to a presidential campaign, that has been the story of the Trump campaign, not the Biden campaign. The Biden campaign is hanging out with Lizzo and Barack Obama and Jeffrey Katzenberg and all these unbelievable, filthy rich Hollywood bigwigs. They go to Radio City Music Hall. They're charging $100,000 a photo. Spare us the whole We're the little guys campaign.
Pop. We've opened up 100 headquarters. We have people waiting to just get engaged. I mean, I just think...
We have people waiting to just get engaged. What is that? Oh, they're not engaged yet. They're just waiting to become engaged.
People are so tired of the negativity that is propagated that they just want to get engaged. They want to change things. And I'm optimistic. I really am.
Wait a second. Hold on. Did you hear that last assessment? They're so sick of the negativity, they want to change things, he said. Now, that is typically in polling when you assess the state of the country. One of the things you do in sentiment polling is you ask people if they're comfortable with the status quo or if they're looking for a change. And usually that's a really big indicator of whether or not they want to keep the incumbent president of the United States or they want to dump him for somebody else. And we saw that in 2016, the 2016 exit polls. Before we saw any of the actual polling, the actual voting totals coming in on election night, one of the first things the networks do is they tell you about sentiment polling. And and to a T, all of them began seeing in the exit polls a very important piece of data. Are you pleased with the direction of the country, or would you like to see a change? And the change data was immense, Now, remember where we were in 2016. Obama is going out, and the belief was that Hillary was coming in to continue his agenda, Obama's agenda. And so the country expressed in that exit survey, we'd like a change, actually. We don't want the Obama agenda anymore. We've had enough of the Obama agenda. We want something much better. And so they went with Trump. So here's Biden saying, I don't know if this is predicated on polling data or what's in his mind or whatever, but he's saying people are sick of all this division. And if you're looking for division, look no further than like every word that comes out of Joe Biden's mouth as it relates to the election, or even when things don't involve the election. He's attacking American citizens, calling people MAGA extremists, suggesting that they're responsible for, quote, ending democracy. He is a relentless barrage of division, relentless. And he attacks the American people on a routine basis. He gave that blood red speech in Philadelphia where he did that very thing. And so Biden here is like, oh my gosh, all this negativity, it's time for a change.
Waiting to just get engaged. I mean, I just think people are so tired of the negativity that is propagated that they just want to get engaged. They want to change things. And I'm optimistic. I really am.
Yeah, well, so are the rest of us. Probably not for the same reason. That's Joe Biden today. Biden was also asked by the weather guy about the economy. And here's what Joe had to say. Remember, the reason people are unhappy with the economy is because they're familiar with their own bank accounts and their own expenses. That's the key way that any average American family is going to measure their economic well-being. They're also very familiar with their credit card debt, which has reached record levels. We're approaching $1.5 trillion in credit card debt. Never before in American history have we had that much credit card debt. The interest rates are skyrocketing. People are stuck. They have no mobility. It's more and more difficult to buy or rent a home. It's very difficult to find a full-time job. The private full-time job market is collapsing. All of the new jobs that are, quote, created are part-time or government jobs. That's the truth. Native-born Americans are losing jobs. They have not even recovered the jobs lost during the pandemic. All of the new job gains, to the extent those exist at all, have been taken up by foreign-born workers here in the United States. So those are the real numbers, despite what the media may lie to you about. Here's Joe Biden asked about the economy today by Al Roker, and here's how he answered.
When people are saying, but Mr. President, I'm feeling, my buck isn't going as far. What do you say to those folks about the economy and what's going on?
Well, I say we have the best economy in the world. We got to make it better. We really do have the best economy in the world.
Savaged by the Biden administration. Savaged. I mean, one of the first acts he did coming into office was spend nearly $2 trillion in unneeded COVID spending that led to a dramatic spike in inflation. And one in which economists across the political spectrum said, yeah, this is creating inflation in the United States. And it's been a disaster ever since.
Jobs are up more than they've ever been. We're in a situation where the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years is maintained. We have people
are falling out of the workforce. That's part of the big reason. They're not looking for jobs. That's one of the big reasons. Those are those native-born Americans I was telling you about. And it's having an artificial effect on making the unemployment numbers seem like everything's fine.
But people, look, I think we're going to find out that what happened is a consequence of the crisis we had in health. is have a lasting.
You made it so much worse.
Effect, and we just got to get people to move again. We're ready. I mean, I think the country's ready to come together in a way that I've never. I mean that sincerely. I'm truly optimistic.
Well, they're definitely rallying around their opposition to you. That's happening with more frequency, to the point that you have Democrat strategists who are openly freaking out about this now. And few openly freak out in quite so fun a way as the Raging Cajun James Carville. He is saying that the Democrats, in particular Biden, are not merely losing their base here and there. They're leaving, in his word, in droves. Take a listen to this clip of James Carville going around this morning.
I've been very vocal about this. It's horrifying. Our numbers among younger voters, particularly younger blacks, younger Latinos, or whatever, but whatever younger, I don't like younger people of color, particularly males.
I like how he bailed out of that. He was like, he was like younger blacks, younger Latinos. He's like, I don't have time for all these categories. I don't even know what they are anymore.
Whatever younger, I don't like younger people of color, particularly males. We're not shedding them. They're leaving in the droves.
We're not merely shedding them. They're leaving in droves. They're leaving in droves, in massive numbers, James Carville explains. Massive. He's right about that. All the survey data demonstrate that. There's also another video going around of a black voter in Baltimore. This is on X, saying that you could not pay to vote for a Democrat. Take a listen to this.
You pay me to vote for a Democrat. Local, state, federal elections, I don't care what it is. You couldn't pay me to vote for one. You know why? Because they know that we, and I mean people whose skin color look like mine, they know that we vote party over interest. So after we vote, what do? They don't need us for anything. That's what they do, year after year after year. I'm from Baltimore, and I go home at least twice a year to see family. Same abandoned homes, same crime rate. We haven't had a Republican mayor since the 60s. And look at our environment. The same can be said for Memphis. The same can be said for St. Louis. The same can be said for Detroit. The same can be said for a lot of these cities all over this country that have been led down the toilet by Democrats for decades. Stop voting party over interest and vote interest over party.
He's right about that. And by the way, should a Republican win in any of these spaces, it's not enough to just win. You've actually got to do something. You actually have to, help change people's lives. But as Donald Trump said in the first place, remember the point he was making to black voters some time ago? He said, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You feel like we have an answer to that question now? I think.
President Biden said Friday that he would visit the site of the Baltimore bridge collapse because, like that bridge, Biden is no longer connecting with black communities.
Saturday Night Live this weekend, even they have noticed what is going on in the Biden administration. And boy, it's crazy. Actually, speaking of what's going on in the Biden administration, tomorrow on the Vince Coglianese Show, we're going to explore the very detailed schedule that Joe Biden has laid out for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. It just came out. Let's take a look. In the morning, the president will receive the president's daily brief. This meeting will be closed press. Oh, that's it. Oh, he's got nothing on the schedule tomorrow. He gets the brief, and that's it. All right, well, I guess they'll assess his cognitive ability in the morning. If he does pop out in public, we'll tell you what he does. In the meantime, the great one, Mark Levin, up next here on WMAL.